where the rubber always meets the road, I think. Actually, I'm not even sure what that means.
Heartland Newsfeed Radio Network, live at heartlandnewsfeed.com.
This show is presented in part by Dodge. Domestic, not domesticated. Auto news, exclusive interviews, real-world test drives. It's your turn to step into the driver's seat. This is The Drive. Now, here's automotive expert, television and radio host, Alan Taylor.
Well, if you're just joining us for the first time, howdy doody. If you've been around before and you know the craziness of this show, it's kind of like the Morning Madhouse, Saturday morning across America, with the radio stations we have, closing in on 100 constantly and losing a few here and there because the world is changing. You know, it's interesting. The world we're in today is not the world we were in 10 years ago, because 10 years ago, there was nobody podcasting. What is a podcast? Now, my grandson, who's 9 months old, is wanting to have a podcast. So everyone has a podcast. I don't care. You can have a podcast. Have yourself a podcast. That's great. Podcast party. But a radio show that is on national radio stations around the country is still, to me, it is the standard of the industry. The reason why is we cannot swear. Dang it. We have to kind of obey the laws and the rules of broadcasting. Doggone it. And we have a certain finite amount of time. With a podcast, you can do whatever you want. But let me just tell you the good news. If you're hearing this show, we turn it into a podcast. We add the F-bombs and the swear words. No, we don't. The point is, we turn it into a podcast so you can listen to it whenever you want. That's the beauty of a podcast. People are like, what's the difference? A radio show, a podcast, a schmodcast. Well, a radio show is on the radio, in your car on the radio. But now the new cars, you can do the podcasting thing on your radio. So there's this blurring and blending of all the lines. But we are on radio stations in your local marketplace. Okay, I'm giving you a big lesson on radio and broadcast and podcast, only because so many people are like, I'm like, dude, you've got 2 minutes to tell this story. I don't have an hour. Give me the story in 2 minutes. So the guy that's on the phone right now, I'm going to let him have as much time as he wants. George Kennedy III. He's the co-owner of Car Tender. It's a marketing company. They help dealers to tell the stories using videos and what have you. He also works with the folks at CarGurus.com and Boston Globe, and he's a friend of mine. But George, I think I have to take a moment and teach some of the folks that are not young, millennials like yourself, the guys that are my age and closing in on 60 and 70 and 80, and my dad's 91, right, who's still, I could tell him podcasting, he goes, just turn the radio on. I'm like, Dad, no. Do you want to listen to a podcast? Anyway, you get what I'm saying here. There's many ways of consuming content these days. And so we podcast this show afterwards so you guys can listen. If you miss it, any part of George Kennedy and you want to hear the podcast later, you just go to the drivewithalantaylor.com and there it is.
Well, I just want to know if I'm allowed to say gee golly or gee whiz. Is that allowed?
Gee whiz and gee golly, just not gee damn, if you know what I'm saying.
Okay. All right. So they're aligned. That's good to know. How you doing, man?
I'm doing okay. You know, this world changes so fast. It's like you need an owner's manual refresh like every 6 months or so, you know? And the cars are changing. I don't know about you, but, man, cars are getting so complicated. Remember when they would drop the set of keys into your hand and you're like, I'm an owner, I know. And you could figure it out on your own. I know that's a radio. There's the on-off knob. That's the heater. That's the air conditioning. Wow, it's got power windows, right? Today, you can talk to your car. Your car is always listening through Siri and through all these other different things. I only use Siri. The point is that the cars are not just simple things anymore. Now they drop a key fob in your hand. You can go on your phone and you can start your car with an app, right? I mean, it's the world is a changing place. The cars are a changing thing, and we got to keep on helping people to understand what's cool, what's good, what's not. Why don't you want this? Why do you want that? So the question is, what do I want today? What are you driving that you think is cool today? Tell me what it is, and then I got to take a commercial break because we're not a podcast. We're a radio. Anyway, go for it.
Well, this week I'm driving the 2019 Infiniti QX80, which is a bit of a throwback. You're right. There's a lot of new stuff going on in the with the infotainment systems, but this vehicle is it's an absolute monster. It's a full-size SUV. It's got truck DNA going on underneath the skin. It's got a 5.6-liter V8, and it's just super comfortable. It's almost like the traditional definition of luxury that I feel like Cadillac may have sort of gotten away from, but where it's all about big, spacious, comfortable seats, a plush, hushed ride.
All right. Now, the question is, how much is it? And that'll help people understand just how big it is. 75? 80? 85?
I think it was closing in on that. Yeah, that was 85. And then, no, I'm sorry. It starts at 65, but the limited, 90.
Yeah, see? All right, hold tight. George is going to talk to us about the 2019 Infiniti QX80, a big mammoth SUV. If you got a horse trailer or a big boat you want to tow, or you just like big SUVs, this is a really nice machine. This is The Drive. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. There's more of The Drive with Alan Taylor.
Have you ever tried to plan a vacation and the hotel costs, airfare, and pet sitter all add up to one big never mind? Well, it's time to embrace the adventure and go RVing instead. GoRVing.com is your one-stop shop for all things RV camping. Browse the different types of RVs, find a rental agent or dealer near you, and compare the costs. Explore more than 16,000 RV parks and campgrounds nationwide, and even plan your menus for the trip. Find out what you've been missing at GoRVing.com. That's GoRVing.com. Well, you're listening to The Drive all across America. The Drive is brought to you in part by Kia. And boldest SUV ever. They have a new vehicle called the Telluride. It's a 2020 Telluride. Not even coming out till a little later on this year. Kia, give it everything. When I get behind the wheel, I will tell you all about it. It is gorgeous. Look up the 2020 Kia Telluride if you want to see more about that. All right. George Kennedy III joining us, car tender, car gurus, and Boston Globe. He is driving a mammoth of an SUV. We're talking a full-size SUV that is a big V8 engine. This can tow a lot. It is very luxurious. You can spend all the way up to like $90,000. They start at like 65. It's the QX80 from Infiniti. George, what do you love about it and what do you don't?
Sure. Well, I mean, I love how much space there is. I'm 6'3". I'm 260 pounds. I like that it's spacious enough for me, and anybody my size is going to like how big it is. Right.
Right.
It's got the Limited has its own unique stitching pattern to the seats.
Yeah,
it's got heated and cooled seats. Oh my God, they're great. It's doing the latest trend where it has like dark finish wheels instead of the silver or chrome.
Right.
Range Rover has been doing this for a while. I think that looks fantastic, especially on this design. Outside of that, all I'd say is that its underpinnings are still a little bit dated, right? So the infotainment, some of the controls, it might be a little busy up front from the control standpoint. The touchscreen might be a little bit dated.
But hold on. Let me stop you right there, first of all. It's funny because, see, for you and me, we're automotive journalists, and we're in it up to our noses, right?
Sure.
The average person would still climb into this thing and go, good golly, Miss Molly, I don't know how to use any of that. You know what I mean? And you're saying it's dated. I get it, because if you look at what's about to come out from some of these automakers, it's, anybody that's been inside of a Tesla, everything is, I hate to even say this, God forgive me, everything is going the way of the Tesla when it comes to a big, giant screen, right? A big giant screen, and gesture control and voice control. I mean, you got, flatulence control these days. It's like, it's like everything is electronic. Now, I get that because we're going into the future, but I was born in 1960. I'm still an old guy that likes to turn knobs. I like a kind of a good sized screen, but I don't know. I mean, I kind of like the fact that, and I will tell you, I'm going to tell you, I'm very very pro QX80 from Infiniti. I've driven in them. I've driven them as a passenger and a driver. They're delightful in every way, shape, and form because they're still a little bit mechanical by nature and not like getting into the Jetsons car and goes. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, they feel analog, right? But
right.
like a well-made watch analog, though,
right.
So I hear what you're saying about infotainment, and what I would say is that, as this technology was making its way through all the different automakers, you have this whole transitional growing pain issue where automakers were either getting it right or getting it really wrong, eliminating things like volume knobs and basic components.
Right.
I've always been, with this creep of technology, like I saw there was a spy shot of the interior of the new Mercedes S-Class, and it's a giant screen like the Tesla. Problem is, I think there's going to be a pendulum swing of pushback against pure touchscreen. Somebody that's buying a Tesla is a technophile to some degree. They're cool with the touchscreen, but everybody else, they want a couple dials and knobs to go with their tech.
I just want a knob, for Christ's sake. I want a knob. Give me a knob.
Well, I mean, look at Honda. Honda had the little finger, the slider on the left-hand side in place of a volume knob for like the last 5 years, and they were getting killed by the press for it. Well, guess what? They brought the volume knobs back. The volume knob and the two knobs.
Won!
So you see that they're hearing this criticism from the press. So right. we do serve a purpose out there, people.
All right. What do you hate about it? What was one thing? Give me one hate. I want some hate today. All right.
Oh man. Okay, I will say this. For somebody my size, it doesn't really spread out enough from the seat standpoint. Like I want to be able to slide back a little bit farther. I want the steering wheel to telescope farther.
By the way,
I need something that accommodates my big frame.
Mr. 6'3", 260. Let me just tell you, he's 320 if he's a pound. We're going to take a break. Don't go anywhere. It is The Drive. We'll be right back with more. And we're going to find out about a car that he really doesn't like. All right? Don't go anywhere. It's The Drive. On the track, even 1/100th of a second decides who wins and who loses. That's why Bridgestone uses advanced racing technology to create their fastest street-legal replacement tire yet. The new Bridgestone Potenza RE71R. Engineered with an innovative hydro-evacuation surface and unique tread compounds, the new Potenza RE71R is designed to give you maximum grip and ultimate cornering on or off the track. Bridgestone is changing the game in tire performance. Yes, you heard it right at the beginning of the show. Our show brought to you in part by Dodge Domestic, not domesticated. Also thanks to our friends at Brembo Brakes. My Dodge Demon has Brembo Brakes. If you've got a car, you need to check out the fact that you can put Brembo brakes on them now. Replacement brakes finally available from Brembo, even if your car did not come stocked with Brembo brakes. Check it out, Brembo.com. George Kennedy joining us. It is time now. He is from Cargimp. Cargimp. Jeez. Oh, my God.
This is a family show, man.
You know what? We should start that show. Cargimp here. Car Guru.
For a real niche audience.
Oh, my God. Car Gurus, Car Tender, Boston Globe. And I ran it all together, and I got Cargimp. Okay. So my friend Cargimp, George Kennedy III. God, that is so funny. You can't make this stuff up.
That's good stuff.
We talked about, I'm glad you have a good sense of humor. We talked about the stuff that you're driving and one that you drove that you just were not too fond of. And what was that, George?
Yeah, so that was last week. It was the 2019 Nissan Kicks. It's a subcompact hatchback, so it competes with like the Mazda CX-3, the Honda HR-V, the Toyota CHR. Those like really small SUVs that are red hot right now in terms of sales.
Well, 6'3" and 320, I get it. You can't fit in there.
Well, I try and put myself in the shoes of the common man as much as I can at 6'3".
Okay. Well, listen, I'm 5 foot fat, so I can fit into anything. I just roll in. All right. So what was it that it just didn't fit you? It was like a size 10 shoe when you wear a 13. You're like, oh, I love the look of it, and it looks like it should work, but I just can't get my foot in there.
I mean, it was for one part there. It was impossible to get a normal seating position, but more than anything, it was sort of the whole philosophy of the car. It's one of these small hatchbacks that don't even offer all-wheel drive. It's front-wheel drive only. It's got the same cargo space as a Volkswagen Golf and probably the same fuel economy. It's the same, it's $2,000 more than a Honda Fit. So you ask yourself, why does a car like this exist? And my cynical approach is only that, well, this is a hatchback. They brought it to market. They gave it a small, 2-inch lift and put some plastic on the fenders and bumpers, called it a crossover so they could tap into the popularity of the crossover market. As opposed to anybody looking at this car would be satisfied for, 99 out of 100 use cases by a Honda Fit or a Volkswagen Golf or a actual real hatchback. It doesn't offer any added utility.
Wait a minute.
For $2,000 more.
Or a Volkswagen, like one of my employees was needing a car that was very utilitarian, right? And at the time, everybody wanted an SUV, a crossover. And you know what was on sale? This was like 2014. Every station wagon on planet Earth, because
absolutely
at that moment in time, the crossovers and SUVs were like hot. And I mean, look at Ford Motor Company made the announcement. We're not making any cars except the Mustang and whatever else. They got a couple little things they're doing, but
and crossovers, yeah.
Yeah. They're making crossovers and trucks. Cars, the word car is kind of going out the window. Lincoln's still going to be around for a while, making some, the whatever that one that they're having. What's that called? Come on, help me out there. The Lincoln.
The Nautilus, the Aviator,
no, the car.
Continental.
The Continental.
Continental.
Yeah, that was what you guys experienced. Hopefully it doesn't smell as a brain fart. Couldn't think of the name. Anyway, the point is that the car market was really damaged, and I happened to take advantage of it with a Volkswagen Jetta station wagon, which are hot, man. They're hot. They're like an SUV that's not jacked up a little bit. So what you're saying is this Nissan Kicks is kind of a glorified car truck crossover vehicle, a car SUV. It basically, people.
It's basically a hatchback that they gave it a couple extra inches of ground clearance.
It's a car that looks like an SUV, right?
Yeah, right. It's made to look like an SUV, exactly. And the problem is that, if that's the way things are, and image is one thing and reality is another, that would be fine. Except that when you position it as a crossover, you can charge a little bit more for it. So people, I feel like they're getting taken. Right.
Oh, so what you're saying? Hold on. Let me just
buy. Yeah.
Let me try and read through the excrement. The thing is, here's what you're saying is that SUV was, the word SUV, sport utility vehicle, was something that should. The word sport is in there, the word utility, and then of course vehicle. Okay, well, that was an easy one. The point is that this vehicle should be sporty and get you places that you want to do things that, a utility vehicle should do. So if you own a farm or a ranch or whatever, you should be able to carry, heavy things in the back like bales of hay. Not that people do that. My wife puts a bale of hay in the back of her Fiat 500, leaves the hatchback open. Funniest thing, honest to God, funniest thing you ever saw. She needs a little crossover.
That's quite an image.
Right. But what happened is they came out with this vehicle called a crossover, which is basically a glorified car that's made to look a little more like an SUV, a sport utility vehicle. But you're saying this one falls short on the promise of what an SUV crossover vehicle should do, huh?
Right, exactly. And the funny thing is that it's not that I hate crossovers, despite what your listeners might think based on the last 5 minutes. It's that if done right, they actually are small SUVs that offer utility, right? But this is the approach here with the Kicks is far more cynical, I feel like. Because, look, it doesn't offer all-wheel drive. And I know for many of your listeners out there, you live in a region where it's never rained and it's always sunny, and I'm very jealous. And you never need all-wheel drive, right?
Yeah.
But there are regions where they do, and you need it, like up here in New England. And to not even offer all-wheel drive as an option makes a mockery of the whole genre in general.
All right. Well, listen. Here's the deal. First of all, Nissan makes good vehicles, every one of them. It's a matter of whether or not you're 6'5", 375. I don't know. He's probably closing in on 400. George Kennedy will be right back with more. You keep gaining weight on the show, George, here. Like, you've only been on 20 minutes and you've already gained like 50 pounds. We'll be right back. It is The Drive. My dad is a proud doer, always building, repairing, or maintaining something. He relies on Craftsman tools, and I do the same. Today, Craftsman mechanics tools, metal storage, and lighting are available from your favorite retailers. But that's only the beginning. A full line of retooled and refined products are on the way. Find your favorite store at craftsman.com and stay tuned for more big news from this trusted American brand. Well, you're listening to The Drive. I'm Alan Taylor. Who doesn't love a little Shania Twain? Love gets me every time. Oh, my God. George Kennedy's joining us right now from Car Gurus and Boston Globe. He's also the co-owner of Car Tender. And we're talking about cars he loves and cars he doesn't so much love. Evidently not in love with the Nissan Kicks. You know what? I've seen the vehicle. It seemed to me like a nice little vehicle, but I guess it's because I live in a part of the country where we just don't get that much bad weather. I mean, a little ice every now and then.
Hey, you guys have it easy, man. You guys have it easy when it comes to weather. Up here in New England, a car has to be able to, it's not just a value add to have all-wheel drive. It's a necessity in some cases, or have winter tires. And that's the point. Is there are things that make a good winter vehicle and things that make a bad winter vehicle. So,
right.
You guys up there don't get a whole ton of experience dealing with that. But, that's one thing we do in New England as part of the New England Motor Press Association is we take it upon ourselves to evaluate some of the best winter vehicles each year. And one way that I've heard it described, which I try to use as a guiding principle, is that the things that make a good winter car should also not detract from its daily experience the rest of the year.
Yeah.
You feel me?
Yeah. No.
So,
I get it.
for example, I happen to love, that I love the Jeep Wrangler.
Sure.
I haven't made that a secret. But I realize that in order for it to be extremely capable off-road, you do sacrifice something in the way of drivability, NVH, ride quality, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Then you look at a car like the Subaru Outback that is just a well-rounded car that can handle itself in the winter.
No, our show brought to you in part by Subaru. Love it's what makes Subaru. So I worked that in. I worked it in there. Thank you. I got it.
Nicely done.
By the
Nicely
way, here's the deal. You know what I just realized is that you own a Jeep, don't you?
I do. Yeah, I have an 01 Cherokee that's lifted. I built the bumper myself out of a steel L-beam. So I'm a little partial.
But see, that's why it's so important. Honest to goodness gracious me. I tell you what, I realize that you and I could get on the radio show like this and beat the living tar out of so many vehicles that if our high water mark is a Jeep, right, of off-roading, and because I happen to love Jeeps too. But who was it that said, I think it was Einstein. Forgive me, Einstein, if I'm wrong on this one, but somebody told me one time that Einstein said something to the effect of, if you judge a fish's ability to climb a tree, then it's not really fair to the fish. You know what I'm saying? Right? So, right?
Are you sure that wasn't like
I totally
Yogi Berra or something?
I don't know, but I totally screwed up. But you get what I'm saying. So here's a little car-based machine called a crossover. And we're judging it against, for both of us, the ability for a fish to climb a tree. Well, a fish cannot climb a tree. A Nissan Kicks cannot climb a mountain the way a Jeep can. So our high water mark is always going to be the Jeep that can climb a mountain like a billy goat. So
look, you and I are both professionals, right? And part of that is being able to take ourselves away from our, look, you've owned Vipers, man.
I own a Viper. And not just any. I own a Viper
and an ACR at that.
And it's for sale. But you guys check it out at classiccars.com because I haven't been using it. I don't use it.
My point is that, though, you don't compare every road car to a Viper every week. I think we do a good job as professionals of putting ourselves in the shoes of the average commuter and say, look, how is this car going to handle all the things they might encounter in a given year?
Right.
And that's where a car like the Outback, I think, really shines. And in that it's got, I think it's got almost 8 inches of ground clearance.
Wait a minute. Was that another Subaru? Our show is brought to you by Subaru. Well, that's what makes I got to throw that in there. Those people are listening.
I'm going to want
They're
to see a piece
listening.
of that, all right?
Exactly.
I got to wet my beak. But look, it's got 8 inches of ground clearance. Unlike the Kicks that doesn't even offer all-wheel drive, the Outback comes standard with all-wheel drive.
All right.
Right?
Let's do this then. Let's pivot off of the poor thing before it.
Okay, all right. I'll leave it alone.
Subaru for a second. You know, Subaru's got the new, what is it called? The Subaru Ascent, which is an 8-passenger. Have you driven that yet?
I have, yeah. No, that thing's fantastic. It's a ton of space, ton of cargo room, standard all-wheel drive, again. It's got the turbo opposing four-cylinder making a good amount of power.
Right.
That's a great, well-rounded vehicle.
Right. In your winter testing, you have vehicles that are, again, high water mark being a Subaru, and their sales have been consistently year over year getting better and better and better for, I believe, 8 years in a row. And there's a reason for this. You said all Subarus are standard all-wheel drive. So when you have any part of the country where there's inclement weather, snow and ice and ugliness, you're going to find a lot of Subarus. The Pacific Northwest, Subarus everywhere. I'm sure. What about in the Northeast where you are, Boston and that area? Lots of Subarus?
New England is like Subaru country.
See?
Yeah.
Bad
I've even
weather?
talked to them, and they said that like it represents like 65% of their sales.
All right.
Like
Now,
New England alone.
What other vehicles do you see are very prevalent in your part of the country there because of the winters that are harsh?
Sure. I've seen a lot of, especially around Boston, a lot of Volvos, a lot of Volvo XC40s, the new small crossover, XC90s, a lot of in the more affluent areas.
Right.
But you see like, Ford Escapes, you see Jeep Cherokees. A lot of the compact crossover market pretty much is everywhere around here. Nissan Rogue, for example. Nissan Rogue was a great one we drove, about a month ago, and we went up to ski country, my whole family, and we were able to throw all of our gear, all of our ski gear, all of our ice skates into the back, and the thing gobbled it all up. It was pretty impressive for a compact SUV.
Well, what's funny is, and there, again, Nissan, if there's a little brother to the Nissan Rogue, it could be this Nissan Kicks or a little sister or whatever you want to call it, because here's a vehicle that the Rogue is pretty doggone competent. It does everything quite well. It's a nice machine, a very well-rounded machine. It's a crossover. But again, I'm pretty surprised at your total hatred and dislike of the poor little Kicks.
Well, because I feel with the Rogue, I think they did a complete job. I know, and I feel with the Kicks, there were some corners that were cut to try and get you that low base price and a good fuel economy.
Okay, but that's a very good point. You get what you pay for, and if you just can't quite afford the Rogue, which I actually have a dear friend that has one and loves it.
Great car.
I don't know anybody that owns a Nissan Kicks yet, but I'm sure that it's just a wonderful car-based crossover vehicle. And that's what you have to remember. You're buying a car that looks like an SUV, but really is more of just a car as you drive it every day in your, work-a-day Joe kind of job. Hang on, let me take a break here because we are definitely too legit to quit. How do you like that? MC Hammer. George Kennedy, we're talking with George. There's more to talk about. You can find him at Car Gurus, lots of videos, Boston Globe, and I'm Alan Taylor. This is The Drive with Alan Taylor.
I don't quit, no. I just press it harder than I ever did before. Going for the dreams that I have in store in my mind. And I know that I'm making it. I gotta get money, no body.
A winter weather advisory is an invitation to own the roads in the Dodge Charger, America's only four-door muscle car with all-wheel drive. To take the winter by storm in a Dodge Durango, the most powerful SUV with all-wheel drive in its class. And to burn some rubber and melt the snow in the Dodge Challenger, the first all-wheel drive muscle coupe. Don't miss the Dodge President's Day event. Based on 2019 Ward's midsize sport utility vehicle segment. Based on Ward's middle specialty vehicle segment. Excludes other FCA US LLC vehicles. Dodge is a registered trademark of FCA US LLC.
Come on, ride a train. That's what she's saying. Come on, ride it. The train. Yeah, cars. Let's just turn this into a hate fest. Welcome back. It is The Drive with me, Alan Taylor, and George Kennedy III from Car Gurus, Boston Globe, car tender. He's an automotive journalist, a freelance, because he's a man with an attitude. He's large. He's heavy. I think he's 400 pounds. Don't mess with George, okay?
So that number keeps going up every time, huh?
What did you started at like 260. I had you 320, then 360. Now you're at 400. I'm going to get you to 500 pounds before we're done. George,
I hate to hear you talk about fish, okay, or fishing.
I know, right? Exactly. Oh, it was this big. Anyway, let's continue our hate fest this morning. I think it's energizing me. Can we talk about the hate fest for electric vehicles? How are those doing in that cold weather there in Boston, huh, George?
Look, hate is a subjective term, okay?
Oh, hate is good.
And if we're talking about things that are negative with electric cars, then there's got to be a little bit more fact-based action to it, right?
Go.
So if you look at cars like the Jaguar I-Pace or any number of Teslas up here, the scuttlebutt has been that their performance has been significantly cut back by the cold weather. You know, think about what happens. Batteries lose their charge or their ability to hold as much charge in cold climates. So when you bring a car up here where there were a bunch of days that were in the single digits in New England in the last month or so, there were cars, like electric cars, that were having a hard time getting the range out of it that's stated. And that's something that automakers are going to have to account for, and they may have to come out with a kind of rating that says, look, this is your winter mileage. Because
Right.
if they're that hard-nosed at the EPA about making sure that your reporting on fuel economy or emissions is such that Volkswagen got taken to town and got in all the trouble they did over misreporting,
Right.
then there has to be the same kind of taken to task for reporting the cold weather performance of these batteries.
Ooh, that is so true. You know, and forgive me, let me just clarify here for those who are not in the know. Batteries, I don't care if it's your flashlight, your car battery, or anything, don't do their job as well in cold weather. That means if you buy an electric car living in Southern California, you're in pretty good shape, or Arizona. And all of a sudden your job changes and you take that little Tesla or whatever it is. I don't care whether it's a Toyota or any of those electric car companies that are making electric car, full electric, Jaguar you just talked about. You take that car to Boston, your range has just changed. So, and the reporting that he's talking about, there needs to be some standardization of the reporting for winter or cold weather driving that is big. You know how they charge us taxes for gas guzzlers? There needs to be some sort of a thing where they're like, don't forget there's a cold weather deduct on your miles, because I don't think that people are completely conscious of that until after they've bought the car. So I get your point on that.
Right. And, if all of this was going down in this, whether it's warm, that's fine. But, Boston is an area where there are folks with the means to buy a lot of these electric cars. It's an innovation area where people are into the latest automotive technology. You see Teslas everywhere on the road. Every time in sequential, Model S, Model X, Model 3, the first one I saw was in and around Boston, right? And so this is an area where purchase of those vehicles is pretty high.
Right.
That needs to be accounted for so that people can be more armed with better information when they are shopping.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting, I was in a Tesla here. A friend of mine owns one, and he says to me, hey, what do you think? It's a 2013. It's been a great car. I go, how many miles you got? He goes, 48,000. I go, oh, sell it. You know why? Because think about it. If anybody has gone shopping to buy cars lately and they see, well, how much is that little car right there? That looks like a nice car. It's, $3,850. Wow, why? Oh, well, it's an electric car with 100,000 miles on it. The battery in the thing costs, like $8 million. So, yeah, the car is pretty cheap because you got an $8 million battery that's no good and it's going to have to be replaced soon or now. It's a scary thing. Electric cars with high miles are going to be, I think, filling landfills at some point because you can't afford to buy the battery. There's going to have to be somebody's going to have to come up with a really good battery exchange program where you lease a battery or something. And that may be already.
I like that.
I don't know,
Well, look, so here's something to consider too. There's a guy, he's a noted YouTuber up here in the New England area called Rich Rebuilds, and he takes salvage Teslas and puts them together. He'll take a powertrain off one, he'll put the touchscreen off another, and he'll put together these Frankenstein Model S's. Thing is, he's doing this sort of while catching the ire from Tesla, because Tesla has this whole protective thing over its intellectual property, over the powertrain stuff, even though automakers have been letting people work on their cars for over 100 years. So what they need to do is get in line with, and look, I like Tesla for a lot of reasons, but they need to get in line with the rest of the auto industry and let people work on their cars. Open up the technology, open up the IP, and let them work on it. Because what they may learn is that folks there, outside of new sales, they're not going to know what to do when it comes to a high mileage car, right? And if this was wide open, you would have the battery leasing programs or the battery swap programs.
Right.
Because without it, 100,000 miles, boom, you're done. And that's, meanwhile, you got, cars from the 70s that are still on the road. It's kind of a joke.
You know what? We could continue this hate fest for one more segment. There's got to be something else out there that I or you hate that is the automotive marketplace. Let's think about it during the commercial break. We'll come back with some more hate right here on The Drive.
No one ever said, give it a bit. No one ever said, give it less. We say, give it everything. The world wasn't built by half measures, by the half-hearted. So when we set out to build our boldest SUV ever, we didn't hold anything back. Introducing the all-new Telluride. Kia. Give it everything. Expected spring 2019 in limited quantities.
Hey, this is a communication breakdown. This is going to be a hate fest right here where, because communication is broken down, I think this song is perfectly appropriate. If it's right, it's listed under Led Zeppelin. I don't know music enough to know if that's them or not. Probably is. George Kennedy III joining us. We are going to have a full-on 5-minute hate fest here of all the things we hate about what's going on in the automotive marketplace. You know what I hate right now? I kind of hate motorsports and what's going on in the world of motorsports right now. It just seems to be totally screwed up. There's so much hating going on in the world of motorsports from the old school, from the grassroots. And here's the good thing about the grassroots people. They're getting back to it, back at the old, the dirt tracks. And they're starting to just kind of go, you know what? I am sick of that whole overly commercialized marketplace known as, NASCAR and NHRA and all that. It's like, what happened? They're telling us what we're supposed to like. They're telling us what we can and can't do in so much ways that the fun is kind of gone out of it for me. I was always a motorsports guy. The fun is out of it. I'm hating on it. Go ahead. What are you hating on?
I mean, look, by the time this thing airs, I think, the Daytona 500 would have been on last weekend.
Right.
And I kind of barely watched any of it, And
I did not watch it at all, period. And then I started seeing crashes everywhere, and they're like, it's an embarrassment. And I'm watching the Facebook. I thought, I'm glad I didn't watch it. I'm done.
Well, look, if they say crashes are an embarrassment, that's like Dana White from UFC acting like he was actually mad at Conor McGregor for flipping out and doing what he did. Like, crashing is part of NASCAR. You got to hear the crowds when there's a crash in a NASCAR race. I mean, they love it. But what I don't like is, you're listening to the Fox coverage and you got, Mike Joy, who's great, Jeff Gordon is great, and then corny Darrell Waltrip is just ruins the whole thing for you. He does that whole boogie-da, 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 start the race. That's corny. And then when a crash happens, instead of going silent and trying to analyze what's going on, he's going, oh, no, they done did it again. And it's like, dude, just let the moment breathe, perhaps.
Well, you know what? So, here's the I think the one comment I gleaned from the buddy of mine that was like, it's like, this is what happens when you have restrictor plate racing, is these gigantic pileups where there's like 18 cars and all that. So I don't know. I just, I've shunned mine eyes from the racing world lately. It's like, I don't know. Maybe it's where I am in my life, but it's like, I don't know. It just seems like it's just too much drama. That's it. Drama.
The drama, yeah. Well, what's funny, though? I was also watching, I woke up early Saturday morning, and there was a documentary on the rivalry between Jeff Gordon and Dale Earnhardt. And I'm like, I watched every minute of that. Because that was, where the race is now is, you're right. The rivalries of the 90s and early 2000s built the sport into what it became over the last 10 to 15 years. And then every company goes, well, we got a lot of money invested in this. There's so many eyes on it. You can't say anything, screw up. Unless you're Tony Stewart, you can't have a little tantrum. And so now everybody is so sterile. Everyone's sort of a corporate entity, including the drivers. So it all makes it very, very, very sterile. And, you want to watch a good race series, I watch sports car racing. So IMSA stuff, Rolex 24, where you have prototypes, you have real cars. It's kind of a joke that they call NASCAR stock car racing, because the real stock cars are in, the Rolex 24 and races like that. Right. Those are actual road cars that are converted to racing. You had Vipers in there, you have Corvettes, right. You have Lamborghinis, Aston Martins, the Mercedes supercars. That's racing. I'm going to have to watch into that. Now, here's the deal. You said something there, right there. It's been corporatized and sterilized. What happened to these kind of the outlaws? I mean, and I think there is a series called Outlaws, but what I'm saying? The point is that it's like, I asked Richard Petty, I said, what is different about racing today versus what it was like when you were in your heyday? And he looked me right in the eye and he says, well, today, he goes, somebody cuts you off. He says, all you can do is yell at them a little bit, and if you want, you go have a fight. He goes, but when I was in racing, you'd take them out behind the hauler, and the car hauler, and you'd have a fight. He goes, now today, there's cameras everywhere. You can't do any of that because it's been sterilized by the media to the point that everyone is following you around. Everybody will catch you on, with their iPhone or whatever it is, with a picture. It's definitely been corporatized and sterilized. All right. I am totally responsible, and it is nobody's fault but mine. I think that's the name of this song, right? For the Hate Fest. George Kennedy, thank you very much, brother. You did a great job today of hating on the car business. Thanks a lot, man. I'll always happy to hate.
Car Tinder and Car Gurus and Boston Globe. You'll find George Kennedy. I'm Alan Taylor. In the next hour, I'll try and leave the hate to about a level 3 instead of a 9. We'll be right back. The big news from Subaru is the all-new 3-row Ascent. It's the biggest SUV from Subaru ever. There's room for 7 or 8 passengers with a choice of second-row captain's chairs or bench seating. It'll tow up to 5,000 pounds. It has the interior space you need for your whole crew. And it gets you where you want to go with the safety of a Subaru, including standard symmetrical all-wheel drive. The all-new 3-row Subaru Ascent. Love is now bigger than ever. Maximum towing capacity varies by trim level, and trailer brakes may be required. See your retailer for details.
This show is presented in part by Dodge. Domestic, not domesticated. Auto news, exclusive interviews, real-world test drives. It's your turn to step into the driver's seat. This is The Drive. Now, here's automotive expert, television and radio host, Alan Taylor.
Well, let me start this hour by apologizing for the hate fest of the last hour of the show. I get in those moods every so often where I just love to express myself and my disgust or my love of whatever it might be. I ended the last hour kind of hating on motorsports and racing, and so I decided to call my friend Stephen Cole Smith, automotive journalist. He works for Racer.com, Auto Week, Automobile Magazine, and he is the motorsports guy that always brings sanity to my world because I think I am the inquiring mind. Like, what the hell is going on in the world of motorsports? And he says to me, Alan, calm down. Calm down. Let your belt loose one notch. Breathe a little bit. Eat some Doritos. And everything will be okay. Now, I did not watch the Daytona 500 last week, but I noticed that the Daytona 500, it's a big race for NASCAR. I noticed there was a lot of kvetching going on, like, oh, woe is me, whoa, what the hell's going on, and this is what happens with restrictor plate racing, and oh, it's disgusting, they should be ashamed, and all these things, and I'm like, man, I'm kind of glad I didn't watch it, otherwise, other than I would have loved to have seen that one big pileup of 18 vehicles, I guess, because I didn't watch it. Stephen Cole Smith joining us now. Did I miss anything good, Steve?
Well, there was a little something on Facebook that I think summed it all up. I think Tom Cotter put it up. You know those old 18-wheelers with the flatbeds you see on the road with all the crushed cars that are going off to the metal plant.
Right.
The caption was NASCAR transporter heading back to Charlotte with the Daytona 500 field, which pretty much it. There were 3 cars that didn't get some level of damage out of 40 cars.
Oh my gosh!
That's if that's not a new record, I don't know what is. I mean, I've never heard that. That was the 2 cars that were up front, and another car toward the back, Ross Chastain, who just managed to stay out of the way because he probably couldn't afford to fix his car. He's a watermelon farmer out of Florida, and Ross just likes to get out there and mix it up and have a good time, and his car wasn't damaged, and Denny Hamlin, the winner, and Kyle Busch, his teammate, who was second, those guys managed to stay ahead of everybody with all the carnage in the back. And you're probably talking to the wrong guy if you want Pollyanna to talk about how great motorsports is. Now, on one hand, half the crowd absolutely loved it because they come to see crashes. You know, that's the dirty little dark secret, or maybe it's not such a secret, that a lot of people come to races because they like to see crashes. They don't like to see anybody get hurt, and there wasn't anybody hurt except for their pocketbook. So NASCAR has made such a safe car now that odds are you can pile up that many cars and not get anybody that has to go to Halifax Memorial Hospital.
Right.
But still, the level of, you can talk about restrictor plate racing, which is, restrictor plate sounds just like what it is. It's a plate that doesn't let as much air and gas into the engine because the cars can go too fast on a track as big as Talladega and Daytona, so they put a plate on there, meaning nobody has any more power than anybody else. Even the guys, even the back markers have pretty much the same amount of power as the guys up front, meaning nobody can get away from anybody else. It's like there's a big net over the whole field, and you just kind of bang around inside that net until somebody pokes out the end of it at the end of the race. That definitely had something to do with it. But, Alan, there were so many stupid rookie mistakes in that race, just people, trying to pass somebody and pulling up in front of them before they should have. Now, whether the spotters up on top of the track were the ones that said, okay, you got room, and all of a sudden, no, you don't have room, and then put your hands over your head because you're about to have an enormous crash. I don't know if that was it or not, but one of the things I was talking about at the race Sunday was that just how unprofessional it made NASCAR look. Because the Saturday race, not too bad. The Friday night truck race, I thought there's no way there could be that much carnage in any race. And son of a gun, here comes Sunday, and midway through, it just, what hits the fan, and right up to the end of the race, there were crashes that made NASCAR look like a really bad Charlie Chaplin movie.
Well, AC/DC Highway to Hell is what I'm going to play for the commercial break. We'll take a little break, come back with Stephen Colesmith. You can find him in Racer Magazine, Auto Week, Automobile Magazine. He's the motorsports guy. We're getting the inside scoop to the inside lane of what's going on in the world of motorsports. More right after this on The Drive. Don't go anywhere.
Stay tuned. There's more of The Drive with Alan Taylor on the road ahead.
Have you ever tried to plan a vacation and the hotel costs, airfare, and pet sitter all add up to one big never mind? Well, it's time to embrace the adventure and go RVing instead. GoRVing.com is your one-stop shop for all things RV camping. Browse the different types of RVs, find a rental agent or dealer near you, and compare the costs. Explore more than 16,000 RV parks and campgrounds nationwide, and even plan your menus for the trip. Find out what you've been missing at GoRVing.com. That's GoRVing.com. I'm not sure if Girls Just Want to Have Fun is the appropriate song to come back with, but I went with it because that's what motorsports is supposed to be, is fun. And I don't know. I'm kind of stuck right now. I'm uninterested in motorsports lately. I don't know what it is. Maybe I need to look at some different variants of motorsports, but NASCAR was always kind of the big one. It was the fun one. And lately, I've lost interest. Stephen Cole Smith is joining us, automotive motorsports journalist. He was at the Daytona 500 last weekend. And Steve, let me just ask you, am I kind of like the collective soul of a lot of people right now that are just kind of shrugging their shoulders and going, oh man, NASCAR, NHRA, has it been overly corporatized and sterilized to the point where, it's just, I don't know. I mean, please shine light. I need guidance.
I did a story for Auto Week that's probably still up online. It's called We Fix NASCAR. And I put it up the Saturday before the race, and it was just a bunch of some really good ideas, some not so good ideas, and some really stupid ideas for how we fix NASCAR. I think corporatized is a problem that NASCAR has been kind of flailing, looking for something to give it more relevance, which is the way we've got the stage racing that, is like 2 or 3 little races within a race that basically is for television. It just means that they stop everything for 5 minutes and they can show commercials a couple of times during the race. Right. But, it's just, I don't know what they can do. The biggest problem is the races are just too darn long. Daytona is usually one of the shortest races, but that thing took, I think, over 4 hours, I think. So they go to Pocono or Dover or some of those 500-mile or 500-lap races, it just seems to take forever. So they've got to do something about that. I'm talking about lowering a race that's a 500 to a 500K, which is 500 miles is 500 miles, 500K is 311 miles. So, but then you've got to do something because all the guys that have been paying for 500 miles, all of a sudden they're paying for 311 miles, and the tracks aren't going to lower the price. So I'm saying let's just have an intermission. If you want to be professional football, we have a halftime, and we'll have a 20-minute concert with Hootie and the Blowfish or somebody like that. And just hit the reset button, and then you watch the rest of the race. And that did not go over well with the readers, which I didn't expect it to. But, these are just ideas I'm throwing out there. Right. And at no cost to NASCAR. But, yeah, it just the good news is it may make the race this weekend at Georgia in Atlanta, it may make the crowd a little bit bigger because people want to see if there are any cars left, if they can actually field a field of 40 cars. And, of course, they can because every major manufacturer and every major car company has got about 8 different cars per driver. So they'll have cars this weekend in Atlanta. But, man, they really need a good race in Atlanta and then going on to Phoenix and the Western Tour out to California. They need some good, solid racing to make Daytona just a distant memory.
Yeah, golly. What form of racing right now is your preferred, venue? Now, your preferred, like, I really want to go to this race, and not because it's the place, but because of the state of that motorsport itself. Right?
Well, it's different for me because I like short track racing. I like sprint cars, and I like, modified racing, which was a great thing about Daytona Speed Weeks is all the local tracks were running 7 nights a week. So I got in some great racing with USAC, some great racing with the All-Stars, with the World of Outlaws. Those guys are still doing what they did 50 years ago, almost identical. Even the cars look the same. If you look close, you can tell they're a lot different. They're much safer. But I love short track racing, and that's what keeps me going to the track week in and week out. IndyCar starts up pretty soon at St. Petersburg. We've already had sports car racing. I think IMSA's in pretty good shape.
Right.
The 24 hours was good. I think Sebring's going to be good. I tell you, I had a long talk with Jim France at the Detroit Auto Show. Jim France basically running NASCAR and everything NASCAR owns. All he wanted to talk about was flat track motorcycle, dirt motorcycle oval racing. That's his favorite part of the sport.
It's funny because, and I got to take a break here, but I was thinking, do those gigantic super speedways really bring the people in when so many people, I remember going to the fairgrounds and watching those dirt guys run around and getting hit in the head with a chunk of dirt. That to me was fun. That was real racing. We'll talk more on the other side. It's The Drive.
love was more or less a given thing.
On the track, even 1/100th of a second decides who wins and who loses. That's why Bridgestone uses advanced racing technology to create their fastest street-legal replacement tire yet, the new Bridgestone Potenza RE71R. Engineered with an innovative hydro-evacuation surface and unique tread compounds, the new Potenza RE71R is designed to give you maximum grip and ultimate cornering on or off the track. Bridgestone is changing the game in tire performance. Well, you're listening to The Drive. I'm Alan Taylor. Thanks to our friends at Subaru. The all-new 3-row Subaru Ascent. Love is now bigger than ever. Yeah, it's big. It's got 7 or 8 passenger configuration. Pretty darn cool. All-wheel drive, symmetrical all-wheel drive. Check it out, the new Subaru Ascent. Stephen Cole Smith is joining us right now. He is a motorsports writer for Racer Magazine, Auto Week, and Automobile Magazine. My question then, Steve, is, after the hate fest in the last hour, I was hating away on motorsports, and my question to you is why do I, a car guy, a motorsports loving guy, feel like that motorsports in general, is waning a little bit? And I could be wrong. Maybe it's just me personally where I'm at in my life, but maybe you could shine some light.
Well, I'll tell you, Alan, I think people like you and me that are over 30, I think part of the problem for us is that we miss the days where motorsports were motorsports and they just happened to be on television, as opposed to motorsports being basically designed and remade to be on television.
Corporatized,
Corporatized. I think NASCAR is basically trying to become a TV sport. I think football, if you go back from the Newt Rogney days, I think there's a lot of aspects of football and even baseball that would not ring true to somebody back from those days when you see them on television now. And I think motorsports is more so than that forever, because motorsports, let's face it, is pretty much the longest sport in terms of the time you have to sit in front of a TV to be able to absorb it. Even longer than the Super Bowl, I think, and that's adding in all the stuff that goes along with it, but certainly a regular football game. And they're trying all these things to make it more exciting, and the one thing they need to do is just shorten the damn thing to where people who have an attention span now that wasn't as long as it used to be, thanks to video games, thanks to telephones, thanks to everything we've got to deal with today that we didn't have to deal with before.
Right.
I think they're trying to make it to where it's more accessible to people to watch, and I think that's hurting the overall product. NASCARs don't look like cars anymore. They're not cars. They're all identical. If you look at the truck race that we had the other night, every single truck except maybe one had an Ilmore engine in it. Even the Toyotas didn't have Toyotas. The Dodges or the Fords didn't have Fords. The Chevrolets didn't have Chevrolets. I think when you say corporatized, pasteurized, homogenized,
right,
that's the case with a whole lot of the stuff that we're seeing on the racetrack today.
Wow. Man, it's kind of sad. It's like, watching, even Lion King, watching the Lion King when he fell to his death, it was like, oh, it's a cartoon, but I was still sad. And racing is, it's like it's something fun and it's kind of a cartoon, but it's still kind of sad to watch it kind of slowly die like this. One
of the indications, Alan, you look in the press room, there's still a lot of people in there, but mostly they're AlanTaylor.com, some guy who's got a little website who likes to cover racing. There's, I'm not sure the New York Times had anybody there. Maybe they did. I don't think Chicago did. I don't think Miami did. I don't think L.A. had maybe one person instead of 5. They're just not getting the coverage they used to, and that's why NASCAR has what they call the NASCAR Wire Service, which is a guy paid to write the news story to send out to all the publications and the broadcast outlets that don't cover it anymore. When they're not there, when they're not taking advantage of a seat at the greatest race in the world, and this is the same thing that's true for the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, you've got a problem. And I don't know how to address it exactly, except just try to make the product a little more accessible to people and a little more interesting to where they want to read about it after it happens and not just look at it when it does.
Right. What about F1? How's F1 doing?
F1's hanging in there. The Liberty Media people out of the U.S. that they're talking about selling, or at least selling part of it. So the bloom is a little bit off that rose. F1 is always going to be F1. It's always going to have maybe 5 or 6 guys who can win, and the rest of the field is just out there trying to maybe get a top 3. I just don't pay as much attention to F1 as I used to, but globally, they still have a huge fan base around the world. But here in the U.S., when they finally do televise them, and it's during a time where you can watch it, like maybe a race in South America as opposed to a race in Vietnam, that seems to get decent numbers, but nowhere near what it does in the rest of the world.
How about, what is the up-and-coming, if there is such a thing, motorsport? X Games kind of stuff?
There's really nothing X Games-wise the X Games is kind of flatlined, I think. I think the flat track motorcycle, is up and coming. I think Rallycross, if it finally gets a toehold, it doesn't start, I think, until May this year. That's a series that's definitely made for young people and made for television. The feature race is about 10 minutes long, and the heat races are about 5 minutes long. So there's a lot of personalities in that series. I think NHRA may be poised for a comeback. People love the noise and love the vibration and love the smell of it. It's basically holding its own. But I think if they could get some more people, they just lost, was it Courtney Force or Brittany Force? Courtney Force, I guess.
Yeah, one of the kids.
Yeah, one of the girls, and they just lost her to racing, so that's not going to help. But they need some more Don Garlits, and they need some more Don Prudhommes, and guys that really know how to talk to the camera. I don't know if IndyCar. I think IndyCar is holding its own too. I don't see any reason that IndyCar would come up. But NASCAR and I think IndyCar both need another manufacturer. There's 2 in IndyCar, Honda and Chevrolet. There's 3 in NASCAR, Chevrolet, Toyota, and Ford. Both of them could use one more manufacturer, because manufacturers as such have to advertise it. So if you've got another Dodge, or if you got Nissan or somebody coming in, they're going to be forced to make it sound like it's a big deal, and that would help them a lot. But what manufacturer wants to come in with the financial aspects that you have right now in motorsports? I don't know. I just don't know.
All right. Well, let's move on to something big on the other side. One more segment with Stephen Cole Smith. He drove the Jeep Gladiator, the new Jeep truck. We'll be right back. My dad is a proud doer, always building, repairing, or maintaining something. He relies on Craftsman tools, and I do the same. Today, Craftsman mechanics tools, metal storage, and lighting are available from your favorite retailers. But that's only the beginning. A full line of retooled and refined products are on the way. Find your favorite store at craftsman.com and stay tuned for more big news from this trusted American brand. Our show is brought to you in part by Kia's boldest SUV ever, the 2020 Telluride. Kia, give it everything. Yeah, the 2020 Telluride is not even out yet, but you can go see it. If you go to Kia or go Google Kia Telluride, you can see it's awesome looking. I don't know anybody that's driven it yet, but something coming very soon. I'm very, very happy what it looks like anyway. Stephen Cole Smith is joining us. He has driven the new Jeep Gladiator, which is Jeep's new Wrangler-based pickup truck. And, Steve, there's so many tongues hanging out right now to hear. And I know that you can't say much about it because the information is embargoed, but give us what you can.
Well, I can tell you everything about the vehicle itself. I just can't tell you much about the drive itself. We went up to Hellsburg, California, and amid the redwoods and amid some really nice off-road racing or off-road driving. It's a fantastic vehicle, I can tell you that. It's definitely trail-rated. You can take it anywhere you want to go. The towing capacity is 7,700 pounds, which is...
What?
Yep. If you get the one with that 6-cylinder engine. Basically, these guys were told by the upper management this vehicle has to be best in class. Best in class for towing, best in class for power. best in class for off-roading, just about everything. And if you ask them, I can't tell you this, but if you ask them, they'll tell you they hit every mark they were trying to. I loved it. I loved it the minute I saw it, at the car show.
Yeah, me too.
I'm an old Jeep Scrambler fan back in the old days with the CJ8, which was just a little tiny bed in the back. Well, this thing has an actual usable bed. You can reach over and touch the floor, from standing out. The sides are not real tall, but you can still put in 4x8 sheets of plywood in the back of the bed if you open the tailgate and let them hang out.
Right.
It's very impressive in every sense, no more so than the attention to detail. And if you look at the new Jeep Rubicon, I'm not going to tell you, there are 2 things that they've actually improved on the Rubicon when it comes to off-roading that, having just done the Rubicon Trail last year, and the story on the Rubicon is just out now in Automobile Magazine, I was stunned that the new Gladiator is actually better in 2 areas than the Rubicon is.
Yeah.
But, it would not surprise me. It might surprise a lot of people, but it would not surprise me if they can sell 100,000 of these things. That's a bunch. That's a lot for a little company out of Toledo that could. And like I said, the attention to detail, I told the crew, I said, I would love to see what you guys could do with the Chrysler 300M. Just the amount of little things that they've got right. And I'll give you one example, and I'll kind of tell you everything about it. You can take the top off, you can take the windshield off, you can remove all this stuff. Well, there's a little bin underneath the back seat and this thing actually seats 4 or 6 feet people. It's actually got a real seat. There's a little bin under there, and it's got little cartoons on the bin that tells you here's where all these nuts and bolts go, and here's what they do. You don't just throw a handful of nuts and bolts in a little container. They actually have you put them in the little container for that particular nut and bolt, and they say things like, here are the bottom 2 for the bottom of the windshield, that sort of thing. So when you do it, just little things like that don't really cost anything, but they're just super nice to have, especially if you have this Jeep over a 5-10 year period. I got a feeling a lot of people are going to. I think the resale value on this thing is going to be amazing. The prices, they couldn't talk prices, but there's no reason to think they're going to be that different than a Rubicon. And I think it's going to be an enormous success.
Isn't it interesting to see what Jeep has done with that brand, with the Trackhawk, with the Hellcat engine, 707 horsepower, just the Wranglers themselves, and all the different iterations, and 2 doors and 4 doors, and the Rubicons, and the Sahara editions, and all the different editions, and all of the Grand Cherokee. My brother has a diesel, loves it. He gets like 38 miles to the gallon or something crazy, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, there's a diesel coming for this, too.
Right. It's like they have nailed it with this vehicle.
Well,
so
I'll tell
happy.
We'll finish up with this. They need to do what NASCAR has done. They have figured out how to keep all the old fans happy, and they figured out how to bring new fans in and keep them happy.
Yeah.
If NASCAR can do that, if all the motorsports can do that, we would be having a conversation about what's wrong with racing right now.
Well, you just brought it right back around to racing. Thank you for that, because that is what he is best at, is his automotive journalism in the form of motorsports journalism, because he says it as it is, tells the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. We'll take a break. Thank you, Steve. You're awesome, man.
Thank you, Alan. Always a pleasure, buddy.
You can find him at Auto Week, at Racer Magazine, racermag.com, automobilemag.com. He's the best. Stephen Cole Smith. I'm Alan Taylor. There is more. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. There's more of The Drive with Alan Taylor on the road ahead.
A winter weather advisory is an invitation to own the roads in the Dodge Charger, America's only 4-door muscle car with all-wheel drive. To take the winter by storm in a Dodge Durango, the most powerful SUV with all-wheel drive in its class. And to burn some rubber and melt the snow in the Dodge Challenger, the first all-wheel drive muscle coupe. Don't miss the Dodge President's Day event. Based on 2019 Ward's Midsize Sport Utility Vehicle segment. Based on Ward's Middle Specialty Vehicle segment. Excludes other FCA US LLC vehicles. Dodge is a registered trademark of FCA US LLC.
All right, it's time to change gears here and talk about a little something different now. We've been talking about motorsports and all that kind of stuff on the show for probably too long for those that don't give a crap about motorsports. Joining us right now is Alex Littlewood. He is the founder and CEO of a company called Motoroso. The question is, what is that, Alex?
Motoroso is a website for automotive and power sports enthusiasts to plan, build, and share their vehicle projects. So we've got content side of the site, which has been live for a couple of years, where people can find ideas and inspiration through interactive content, fairly unique. We've got over 350 brands, 60,000 builds have been uploaded there. And then we recently launched a marketplace, and it's the world's first dedicated auto parts marketplace.
Wow.
So our tagline, essentially, we tell customers now you can shop hundreds of thousands of the top name brand products from trusted vendors at great prices, and the shipping's always free.
So how is this different from Amazon and eBay and stuff like that?
The first thing that makes us different from other marketplaces is that we have a content layer to the site. So we really focus on helping people to find what they're looking for first. Whereas, if you go to Amazon and eBay, you kind of like already know what you're looking for. You're not doing much like browsing there. It's more like finding a needle in a haystack, trying to find a trusted product that you think is authentic. And that's kind of the other side of the problems. So with finding content, helping people find the products that they actually need is probably one of the biggest differentiators. And then we're really, really selective about who our sellers are. So we scrutinize, make sure that they're a U.S. or Canada-based business, that they have people on staff that understand and know the products, and they're not just some sort of shady drop shipper. Because it's become very, very sort of wild west, on some of the other marketplaces. And so we're really scrutinous about who our sellers are. We keep a much smaller roster of sellers with top name brand products, and we make sure that they're always competitive on price, and that they have a great service department to serve those customers. We think that's, there's lots of industries where maybe the seller doesn't make as big of a difference. But in this one, you are playing with people's safety and their lives. If you're buying a set of brakes, you don't want those to be cheesy knockoff products, stamped out in China. You want those to be really high quality products.
Huh. Tell me, where did this all come together for you? And what is your background as a gearhead?
Well, my background as a gearhead, I've been playing with these things for just as long as I can remember. It actually all started with me, like for most people, me and my dad. We were wrenching on stuff in the garage. We actually built a home-built airplane together.
Wow,
He flew that. Yeah, pretty rad. He flew that, and then we owned a small, 4-seater Piper Cherokee 2, and we flew that across country. And then, we got into building my first car, and I kind of took the reins from there. I got into motorcycle racing. It's really just been a part of my life, my whole life. My professional background, though, has been in tech, because I was raised in the Silicon Valley, sort of around it. I mean, I used to ride my bike through the orchard that is now Intel. And my tech career started in big tech. Then I moved over into the startup world, and then kind of found my way through a number of different startups, some pretty miserable failures, others pretty major success stories. Most notably, I was at a company called Wildfire. Ultimately, we were acquired by Google, so we had to work at Google for a little while and see what some of the best in the industry do. But the one that really spurred my ideas for Motoroso were Pinterest and Houzz.com. I was sort of working in Pinterest marketing, and I was using Houzz.com to remodel my home. And really the idea for Motoroso was kind of like, wouldn't it be great if we had a Houzz.com for the automotive enthusiast segment?
So like you say Houzz, like H-O-W-S?
H-O-U-Z-Z. Yeah.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, well, it's a really useful website, and it's sort of like, it's one of those sites that you never heard of until you discover it because you needed it. And then once you found it, it's absolutely indispensable. And so next time you're doing a home remodeling project, go check out house.com. It's a great place to find ideas and inspiration for sort of like everything from designing a man cave or redecorating a kitchen. And it does exactly what we do for the auto enthusiast community. It helps people find the ideas that they need for the projects and then find the products that they need to complete those projects. And then it even helps you connect you to service providers, which is a part of our future as well. We're not quite there yet, and we have a few shops on the site, but that's a big next step for us, but probably a good year or two away.
Yeah, right. And it's the evolution of your brand. Now, but do me a favor, H-U-Z-Z, you said for the other one?
H-O-U-Z-Z.
H-O-U-Z-Z. I'm just, that was like, wow, I've never even heard of it, so now I'm going to go take a look at that as well.
Big company. They'll probably IPO this year, actually.
Oh, wow. Okay, so now tell me how you guys entice people to upload, is it their projects? Is that what it is?
They definitely can, yeah. So any user can come to the site and sign up for a profile, and they can upload a static photo of their project build, and then they can use our tools to create an interactive layer of tags over the image to tell us and tell others what parts and accessories they used in that project build. They can even lay in step-by-step how-tos. They can layer in video. They can layer in links to articles. And it's just a really unique set of tools for telling an interactive story about your project build, rather than, we've all been to the forums, we've all been to the blogs, and, you read a bunch of text, then see a picture, read a bunch of text, see a picture, and it's not as interactive. And so this is kind of a more unique way of documenting the project build. And now, after you are looking for ideas on the site, you can click from the products over to, in many cases, over to the Motoroso Marketplace, where you can actually find a trusted seller for that product at a great price and purchase that product and get free shipping on it.
So I'm on the site right now, and there's just all kinds of crazy-looking cars. I mean, cars, trucks, looks like some race cars, some very cool, classic cars, new cars, articles. It looks like each one says article. How about video? What's the plan, the bigger plan? I guess, video is where the world's going. What are you guys doing in that regard?
Absolutely, yeah. So we enable the users to layer a video link within an image so that they can click that image and see whatever video has been layered within it. But actually, we have a larger video strategy that we're building up right now. We actually recently hired a guy from HBO. So he was there for 6 years, and he happened to live in the Central Coast where we are. And he's a big gearhead, just like I am, and so he's a good fit for us. And we signed a lease on a 2,000 square foot studio here in San Luis Obispo, and we're shooting our own video content. So now at youtube.com/Motoroso app, users can subscribe to the channel, and they'll start to see, hopefully we'll hit a pace of about a video a day, which is pretty ambitious. And we've been able to release a video every, weekday for the last week. And we've got a nice queue for this week as well. We just did a video about upgraded half shafts for S550 Mustangs that can handle up to 1,500 horsepower. Day before that, we did a video about a Focus RS turbo kit.
All right, hold tight. Let's take another break. Let's talk a little bit more about this on the other side. You guys check out Motoroso.com. I'm on the site right now. It's very cool. I want to find out more about what's coming in the future with this cool new site. Alex Littlewood, founder and CEO. We'll be right back. It is The Drive.
No one ever said, give it a bit. No one ever said, give it less. We say, give it everything. The world wasn't built by half measures, by the half-hearted. So when we set out to build our boldest SUV ever, we didn't hold anything back. Introducing the all-new Telluride. Kia. Give it everything. Expected spring 2019 in limited quantities.
Listening to The Drive, I'm Alan Taylor. Our show brought to you in part by Kia's boldest SUV ever, the 2020 Telluride. Kia, give it everything. Again, I'm Alan Taylor. Joining us right now is Alex Littlewood, founder and CEO of Motoroso.com, a car guy gearhead website. And I happened to be looking during the commercial break, Alex, and I found a Dodge Demon. Yes. I own a Demon. Anderson Composites. Demon features Anderson Composites carbon fiber body components, chin splitter, hood, grill, fenders, fender flares. And so this is kind of a marketplace where you can find cool gearhead stuff and gadgets and things and projects. And I mean, it's like, I'm scrolling. There's car after car after hundreds and how many? Do we have any idea how many cars are here? How many cars and trucks and vehicles?
Yeah, we've had over 60,000 pictures of build projects uploaded. Yeah, and a lot of it's really high quality stuff. So the Anderson Composites is a good example of, that's a brand, and they actually took those photos, they make the product, and then they uploaded the photos to show off their products. And rather than just sort of hitting you with generic marketing messaging, they're actually showing you their products in action.
Goodness gracious. So it looks like here there's a 2018 Ford SEMA truck as well. Actually, 2019 F-350 crew cab. It was a vehicle built for Ford Motor Company for the 2018 SEMA, which is at the end of the year. So it would have, it's the 19 truck. But so you can actually get a window into upcoming cool stuff for vehicles that are on the market right now. Here's another one. Wide body kit. Oh, from Galpin Autosports, where I used to do my show. That's great. Being worked on over there. And it's showing the vehicle being built in their shop, and then, of course, them putting all the paint and all the stripes and all the graphics and all the stuff on. I'm just clicking through the pictures. This is very cool, man. Very cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The Ford stuff, we've actually partnered with them for 4 years in a row now. And essentially, we power the interactive touch screens in the booth. You've been to SEMA and you've walked through the Ford booth?
Yeah. Yeah,
Do you notice all the little interactive touch screens that are next to every project build?
Yeah.
That's actually our technology that's powered that for the last 4 years in a row.
Oh, nice. And then I like this little, there's a tab on the side. It says share image. There's Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and all the rest. This is very, very cool. All I can say is, how many of your friends and family members told you, Alex, you're crazy. This is like, it's a crowded marketplace out there. Don't do it. But by the way, so answer that after. I will tell everybody, I'm looking at a picture of a Ford going down a trail, and here's all these little tags, almost like price tags that are empty little tags. And if you scroll over them, you can then click on it, and it tells you what the part is. Hellwig sway bars. Here's another one. 52 turbo Mac 20-inch wheels. Here's another one. For the heads for the off-road lights, here's the Warn M12 winch. The push guard is also the Warn push guard. Let me see this one on the back over here. Oh, it's an official licensed product, Ford Accessories rear wheel inner liners. I mean, on and on and on. So you take a photograph and you actually tag all the products. So if you like the look of that vehicle, you can then, learn more. Let me click on it. Boom. It takes you right to where you can buy it. Very nice. Yeah,
absolutely.
Nicely done.
And more, those products that you find on the tags will be available on the Motoroso Marketplace, which is new. We have over 250,000 SKUs available right now, and we launched a little over 2 weeks ago. And we'll have over 500,000 products by the end of the month, and we'll have well north of 1 million by the end of June. So we're really making a concerted effort to bring some of the best name brand products in the industry at great prices to the table, so that once people sort of find cool products in a build, then they don't have to go hunting for it anywhere. They can actually find it on Motoroso, sold by a handful of carefully selected vendors that they know they can get good service from, that isn't some retailer that's just going to disappear in a few months or a year.
No. It's great stuff. You're basically vetting them out. Shop auto, shop moto, shop apparel, shop 1,067 brands in Motoroso. I'm just looking at your Facebook page or your homepage right now for the part of the website, which is the marketplace. Name brands, trusted vendors, great prices, free shipping. I have no idea how he does this. Motoroso.com. You guys go check it out. Alex, great job, brother. Great job. So much
Thank
so
you,
that
sir. Really appreciate it.
I'm playing the Ferris Bueller's Day Off theme song for you on the way out of the show here. That means you won the prize. All right, I'm Alan Taylor. This is The Drive. And check out Motoroso.com. We'll see y'all next week. The big news from Subaru is the all-new 3-row Ascent. It's the biggest SUV from Subaru ever. There's room for 7 or 8 passengers with a choice of second-row captain's chairs or bench seating. It'll tow up to 5,000 pounds. It has the interior space you need for your whole crew, and it gets you where you want to go with the safety of a Subaru, including standard symmetrical all-wheel drive. The all-new 3-row Subaru Ascent. Love is now bigger than ever. Maximum towing capacity varies by trim level, and trailer brakes may be required. See your retailer for details.